to Whisperway ASMR. Let your breath settle. Let your thoughts soften. Feel the space around you. Melt into quiet. Now drift with me into a place hidden far from the world you know. A place where trees lean close like old friends, and the wind carries the hush of forgotten stories. There, cradled deep between misty hills, is a little village. A village where time moves slowly like cereal dripping from a wooden spoon. And in that village, tucked behind a low stone wall covered in ivy, lives a woman named Lyra. No one knows exactly how old she is. Her hair is silver like river mist. Her hands soft as parchment. Her smile, the kind that feels like coming home. She lives alone in a quiet cottage, wrapped in vines, with moss-covered steps and rose petals scattered across the windowsills. And each day, just as the sky turns pale and the hush of stillness begins to settle, Elira begins her gentle ritual. She steps outside with a wicker basket in her hand and a tiny flame in the other. Like a secret she keeps close to her heart. Then, without speaking a word, she begins to light her lanterns. They hang from tree branches, woven into the hedges, nestled along winding paths, resting gently on stones. Each lantern is small, simply made of frosted glass and copper wire, glowing with golden shimmer that feels like warmth on your skin. One by one, she lights them, not quickly, never rushed. Every touch is thoughtful, every flicker intentional, and soon the entire garden is bathed in a quiet golden glow. It doesn't dazzle, it whispers, it hums like a lullaby made of light. The villagers watch from afar, some from windows, some from balconies. They call her the Lantern Keeper, and they speak of her with reverence, though few have spoken to her directly. Children believe she's a witch, or perhaps a foreign spirit in disguise, but none of them know the truth. Elira's lanterns are not ordinary lights. They hold something more, something sacred. They hold memories. You see, whenever someone in the village experiences something beautiful, something gentle or tender or fleeting, it doesn't disappear. Elira feels it. She senses the warmth left behind, the echo of emotion still fluttering like a bird beneath the ribs, and she captures it, not with force, with care, a mother's whispered prayer over her sleeping child, a hand held tightly hurt in months of loneliness. The first time someone dares to sing again, after silence. These are the kinds of moments Elira keeps. She doesn't take them from anyone. She simply preserves what time will otherwise forget. When she lights her lanterns, those memories return, soft, glowing, and whole. They fill the air with something you can't see but can feel. A sense of love, of being loved, of knowing what's true, deeply alive. She walks with the same rhythm each time. Her steps slow and steady. The shock around her shoulders is always the same. Woven with threads, coloured with and twine. There's no urgency, only grace. And in her eyes, if you ever catch a glimpse, you will see your own reflection smiling back at you. Not as you are now, but as you once were. In a moment, you may have forgotten. A version of yourself is soft, hopeful, bright. Elira's hope is The garden is quiet, not silent, just resting, the kind of quiet where the air wraps around you like a shawl, where even the leaves seem to listen. Elira moves with the same rhythm as always, her hands steady, her breath calm. She checks the lanterns, one by one, each soft orb glowing like memory, not too bright, not too dim, just enough. But today, something is different. It begins as a whisper, a rustle, a hush within the hush. She doesn't look up at first, simply tilts her head, noticing, the kind of noticing that's deeper than thought. And then, just beyond the hedge, a child steps forward, a girl, maybe 10, maybe younger, hair like a field of late summer, feet bare, eyes wide. She says nothing, only looks at the lanterns, at Elira, and the way the light seems to hum softly in the space between things. Elira doesn't speak, not yet. She simply nods, a slow invitation. The girl walks forward, carefully, like she's afraid the grass might speak if she steps too hard. She reaches the first lantern and stops, staring at it. Her voice comes like a feather dropped into still water. What is it? Elira steps beside her, looks into the lantern. This one glows pale gold, almost like the morning sun through honey. She answers softly, that one is a memory. The girl's eyebrows pull together. A memory. Elira nods. Yes. It came from a woman who used to sit on her porch every day at sunset. She'd hum the same melody, the same four notes, over and over. She never said why, but the song never left her. So it came here. One day, it just floated into the garden and stayed. The girl looks at the lantern again. This time, not with confusion, but with something softer. Curiosity, wonder, maybe even recognition. Can I hold it? She asks. Elira's voice lowers even more. Only if you remember gently. The girl reaches out, both hands open like she's catching a breath, and the lantern lifts, light as though warm as skin. Her eyes close, and the world shifts. The garden fades, the hedge, the trees, even Elira. She is somewhere else now. A porch, a wooden swing, a cup of warm tea, and a voice humming, soft, steady. That same four-note melody. It moves through her like a lullaby that never had words. When her eyes open, they're damp, but not from sadness, from something she doesn't have a name for. Elira gently takes the lantern back, replaces it on its branch, lets it sway just a little. The girl whispers, I think I've heard that song before, but not in a long time. Elira kneels beside her and says nothing, because sometimes silence is the most honest reply. They walk deeper into the garden, past lanterns of all shapes and colours, some high, some low, each one carrying a feeling. A dog's bark and a child's laughter wrapped together, a goodbye never spoken, a hand held for the last time, a snowfall remembered from a window. Each glow is a story, not told but felt. The girl slows, stops beside a dark branch, no lantern there. She looks at Elira, then down at her own hands and says, I think I have one too, but it hurts a little. Elira nods. Those are the ones that shine the brightest, once they're ready. She reaches into her satchel, pulls out an empty lantern. It looks like glass, but it's softer, more like captured moonlight. She offers it. The girl takes it, closes her eyes and breathes, not a shallow breath, but one from deep, from the place where old memories live. There's a flash behind her eyelids, a hallway, a door closing, the sound of footsteps walking away, and the ache of being left, not forgotten, just left. But then, a voice, just before the door closes, whispering, I wanted to stay longer, I really did. Her hands tremble, but she doesn't let go. The lantern lantern pulses once, then glows. Soft, steady. Elira takes it from her with both hands and hangs it high where it can swing gently in the breeze. The girl watches it, her breathing slow again, her chest a little lighter. Elira places a hand on her shoulder. You did well. They say nothing more, because the garden doesn't ask for words. It asks only for remembering. As the sun dips behind the distant trees, and the lanterns begin to shimmer in the rising dusk, the garden glows a little brighter, not because of the light, but because someone remembered, and was brave enough to let it shine. The garden is quiet, not silent, just resting, the kind of quiet where the air wraps around you like a shawl, where even the leaves seem to listen. Elira moves with the same rhythm as always, her hands steady, her breath calm. She checks the lanterns one by one, each soft orb glowing like memory, not too bright, not too dim, just enough. But today, something is different. It begins as a whisper, a rustle, a hush within the hush. She doesn't look up at first, simply tilts her head, noticing, the kind of noticing that's deeper than thought. And then, just beyond the hedge, a child steps forward, a girl, maybe 10, maybe younger, hair like a field of late summer, feet bare, eyes wide. She says nothing, only looks at the lanterns, at Elira, and the way the light seems to hum softly in the space between things. Elira doesn't speak, not yet. She simply nods, a slow invitation. The girl walks forward, carefully, like she's afraid the grass might speak if she steps too hard. She reaches the first lantern and stops, staring at it. Her voice comes like a feather dropped into still water. What is it? Elira steps beside her, looks into the lantern. This one glows pale gold, almost like the morning sun through honey. She answers softly. That one is a memory. The girl's eyebrows pull together. A memory. Elira nods. Yes. It came from a woman who used to sit on her porch every day at sunset. She'd hum the same melody, the same 4 notes, over and over. She never said why, but the song never left her. So it came here. One day, it just floated into the garden and stayed. The girl looks at the lantern again. This time, not with confusion, but with something softer. Curiosity, wonder, maybe even recognition. Can I hold it? She asks. Elira's voice lowers even more. Only if you remember gently. The girl reaches out, both hands open like she's catching a breath, and the lantern lifts, light as though warm as skin. Her eyes close, and the world shifts. The garden fades, the hedge, the trees, even Elira. She is somewhere else now. A porch, a wooden swing, a cup of warm tea, and a voice humming, soft, steady. That same 4-note melody. It moves through her like a lullaby that never had words. When her eyes open, they're damp, but not from sadness, from something she doesn't have a name for. Elira gently takes the lantern back, replaces it on its branch, lets it sway just a little. The girl whispers, I think I've heard that song before, but not in a long time. Elira kneels beside her and says nothing, because sometimes silence is the most honest reply. They walk deeper into the garden, past lanterns of all shapes and colours, some high, some low, each one carrying a feeling. A dog's bark and a child's laughter wrapped together, a goodbye never spoken, a hand held for the last time, a snowfall remembered from a window. Each glow is a story, not told but felt. The girl slows, stops beside a dark branch, no lantern there. She looks at Elira, then down at her own hands and says, I think I have one too, but it hurts a little. Elira nods. Those are the ones that shine the brightest, once they're ready. She reaches into her satchel, pulls out an empty lantern. It looks like glass, but it's softer, more closes her eyes and breathes, not the shallow breath, but one from deep, from the place where old memories live. There's a flash behind her eyelids, a hallway, a door closing, the sound of footsteps walking away, and the ache of being left, not forgotten, just left. But then, a voice, just before the door closes, whispering, "I wanted to stay longer, I really did." Her hands tremble, but she doesn't let go. The lantern pulses once, then glows, soft, steady, until Elira takes it from her with both hands and hangs it high where it can swing gently in the breeze. The girl watches it, her breathing slow again, her chest a little lighter. Elira places a hand on her shoulder. "You did well." They say nothing more, because the garden doesn't ask for words. It asks only for remembering. As the sun dips behind the distant trees, and the lanterns begin to shimmer in the rising dusk, the garden glows a little brighter, not because of the light, but because someone remembered, and was brave enough to let it shine. The girl returned the next day, or maybe it was the next week, in the garden. Time doesn't quite behave the way it does elsewhere. Elira saw her before she stepped through the arch of ivy, that same careful pace, that same quiet hunger to feel something she couldn't name. This time, the girl carried something wrapped in cloth, a small bundle pressed close to her chest, like it might slip away if she loosened her grip. Elira said nothing, just opened the path with her presence, and the garden welcomed her in. They walked without speaking, passing a lantern that sang with wind chimes, another that held the scent of burnt toast and laughter. At the foot of the oldest tree, the girl knelt. She opened the cloth. Inside was a marble green with golden veins, a shoelace frayed at the ends, and a small picture torn in the corner. She didn't explain. She didn't need to. Elira understood. This was a memory too, not one moment, but several woven together, held in objects, because they were easier to touch than the feelings behind them. "I didn't know where else to put them," the girl whispered, her voice barely louder than the breeze. "They don't make sense by themselves, but together they feel like my brother." Elira knelt beside her, and for a moment they both simply looked at the bundle. The garden hushed, the air held its breath. Elira pulled another lantern from her satchel, this one slightly larger, clear as still water. "Would you like to try?" The girl nodded and began placing the objects inside. First the marble. It rolled in with a soft clink, then the picture, then the lace. As they settled into the base of the lantern, the glow began slowly, not sudden, like light gathering at the edges of a storm. Then warmth, not heat, but warmth, like sitting near someone who once made you laugh when you didn't know you needed it. The lantern pulsed once, then glowed steady gold, with faint threads of green. The girl smiled without realizing a tired kind of smile, but real Elira reached up and hung the lantern from a low branch, right where the wind curved softly through the garden's breath. "That one will stay for as long as it needs to," she said. The girl nodded, and for the first time sat down. She looked around at the other lanterns, each carrying a piece of someone's heart, each holding silence the way a lullaby does, gently but with meaning. She asked, "Do people ever forget these?" Elira answered, "Sometimes, but forgetting doesn't mean they didn't matter. The lantern keeps them until they're ready to drift into peace." The girl looked up toward the highest branches, where some lanterns blinked slowly, like stars at rest. "And what happens then?" Elira turned her gaze upward too. Then they become part of the sky, and no one forgets the stars. The garden rustled as if agreeing. A light wind swept through, carrying the faint sound of a bell, distant, soft. Barely there, the girl stayed for a while, lying back against the moss, watching watching her memory sway, glowing gently in the dusk. When she rose, she didn't take the path back immediately. She wandered once more, as if trying to memorize every light, every flicker, every feeling, and Elira let her. Because sometimes it's not the leaving that's hard, it's knowing someone else will care for what you've left behind. When the girl finally stepped through the arch, she paused, turned back and said, "I think I'll come again when I remember more." Elira nodded, with a smile that came not from her lips, but from the quiet joy of someone who keeps watch over what matters. And as the girl disappeared into the hush of the world beyond, a new lantern began to glow softly beside the others, not loud, not urgent, just remembered. It was a cold wind that stirred the garden. Next, not harsh, not unkind, just older Elira felt it before she saw him. The steps heavier, more hesitant, like someone who wasn't sure if they still belonged somewhere. The man stepped through the ivy arch. His shoulders carried weight, not the kind you see, but the kind that lingers in the silence between breaths. He was tall, but didn't stand tall. Hands tucked into the sleeves of a warm coat, eyes the colour of sea glass dulled by time. Elira said nothing, only inclined her head and waited. He looked around, taking in the lanterns, the warm glows, the soft hums. Each light seemed to press into him gently, but he didn't reach out. Not yet. He cleared his throat, not from needing to speak, but from trying not to. Finally, he asked, "Do they ever flicker out?" Elira shook her head slowly. "No, they only quiet." He nodded, as if that was the answer he feared, and also needed. They walked together, though he didn't walk beside her, just behind, half a step slower, as though afraid the garden might reject him if he moved too quickly. At a bend in the path, he stopped. There, glowing faint blue, was a lantern, resting low among the moss, the light soft as breath, like a secret being kept gently by the earth. He stared at it. "I think this one is mine," he whispered. Elira waited. No need to confirm. People always know their lanterns, even if they pretend they don't. He knelt one knee to the moss, hands trembling slightly. This was from before I learned how to pretend it didn't hurt, before I taught myself not to feel it anymore. His voice cracked, but only once, and he didn't hide it. He reached out but didn't touch the lantern, just hovered near it, like warming hands near a fire he wasn't ready to step into. Elira knelt beside him, her voice low, steady kind. "It's still here." It waited. He nodded slowly. "Everyone told me to move on, to let it go. So, I tried. I packed away the picture, stopped walking that road, avoided the date, pretended I'd healed. But every now and then, I'd hear her laugh in the back of my mind, and it would all come rushing back." His hands closed into fists on his knees. "I hated how much I still loved her, even after all the years." The lantern pulsed once, not brightly, but sure, as if it too remembered Elira, reached into her satchel, pulled out another lantern, this one darker glass, the kind that didn't shine until something brave touched it. She set it beside the man. "You can place the rest here if you're ready." He unbuttoned his coat slowly, reached into the inside pocket, and pulled out a folded letter, edges worn, ink faded in places from the salt of tears. He placed it inside, then a necklace, delicate, simple, a stone no larger than a fingertip, and finally, a pressed flower, crisp with age, colour nearly gone, but scent still faintly sweet. The lantern trembled once, then glowed, not gold, not blue, but something between a soft amethyst light, like twilight, with a memory in its breath. The man watched it rise. Elira held it with both hands, lifted it high into a tree that curved gently above the path. When she hung it, the leaves shimmered. A breeze swept by, carrying the sound of a voice not spoken aloud, but felt a voice like hers. He looked up and smiled, tears resting quietly in his eyes. She would have liked this place, he whispered. Elira answered, she already does. He stood slowly, lighter than when he arrived. They walked a little farther. No words, just the shared silence of those who have known grief and chosen not to hide from it anymore. At the garden's edge, he paused, looked back once more, the amethyst glow still visible between the leaves. Then he turned and left, not with regret, not with sorrow, but with a gentle weight of having remembered and being remembered in return. She came with no name, no memory, only a feeling. The wind changed when she stepped through the arch, not colder, not warmer, just curious. Elira noticed it immediately, the way the garden tilted toward her presence, as if it recognized something before she did. The woman was young, but her eyes felt older, wandering, not searching, as though she'd forgotten what searching was. She wore no bag, carried nothing in her hands, yet there was weight in her steps, as if her shadow remembered more than she did. Elira watched her for a while, let the garden do the greeting, let the silence settle in, then quietly stepped onto the path beside her. The woman looked up, startled but not afraid. Where am I? She whispered. Even her voice sounded like a secret one that wasn't quite sure if it should be spoken aloud. Elira offered a soft smile. This is the place where memories rest. The woman furrowed her brow. I don't have any, not real ones, only fragments, feelings, flashes of something that slips away when I reach for it. She looked around, at the glowing lanterns, each one flickering gently, singing their quiet songs of what once was, I don't know if I belong here. Elira gently touched her arm. You were called. That means you belong. They walked together, the garden somehow opening with each step, petals unfolding, leaves brushing softly against their arms, lanterns glowing brighter, then dimmer, as if testing, searching. Then it happened. One lantern tucked low under a curling willow, flickered sharp, a quick flash, then dim again. The woman paused, drawn to it like a thread pulled from inside her chest. She crouched, eyes wide, breath held. It feels like something familiar, but I don't know why. Elira knelt beside her, and for the first time, didn't speak, only watched. The woman slowly reached forward, fingers hovering over the glass. Then she touched it. The light bloomed, not bright, but deep, like something blooming in the dark. A soft blue with pulses of silver and violet, the colours of dusk, meeting dawn. The woman gasped, and it came, not a memory in pictures, but in sensations. Rain on the skin, running through his tall grass. A soft voice singing to her, a lullaby made of hums and half-forgotten words. The taste of warm bread, the comfort of wool against her cheek. And then, a single name, not hers, but someone she once held close. May. Her voice cracked on it like finding a piece of yourself you didn't know was missing. She pressed both hands to the lantern, tears spilling, not in sadness, but in recognition. I think I lost her, and in losing her, I lost me too. Elira nodded. The memory waited, because sometimes the soul remembers before the mind does. The lantern now glowed steadily, strong, not demanding, but sure it was hers. Even if she didn't know the whole story yet, the woman sat beside it for a long time. No questions, no fear, just presence. At some point, she leaned against Elira's shoulder, not needing comfort, but sharing it. lavender trailing behind her, the lantern still glowing, tucked beneath the willow, waiting because memory doesn't always need to be complete to be real. The morning drifted in quietly. A mist hung low, wrapping the garden in a hush that felt ancient. Elira moved with care, tending to the lanterns that had flickered gently through the night, some glowing brighter, others dimming to soft embers, each with its own rhythm, its own story. She felt it before she saw it. 2 lanterns on opposite ends of the path, pulsing slowly in time with each other. One was a soft amber, the other a pale pink. Unusual, but not unheard of. Lanterns sometimes echo across time, memories that hum in harmony even when their keepers have never met. Elira followed the pull, and not long after, 2 footsteps entered the garden, not side by side, but from 2 different paths. One a boy, no older than 16, hands tucked deep into his sleeves, eyes that flicked toward the ground, then back up like he was trying not to be afraid. The other, a woman, mid-30s, hair pinned loosely, moving as though she belonged here, even if she didn't know why. They didn't notice each other at first, both drawn to different corners, to different lanterns. The boy stopped at the amber one. It pulsed warmly when he got close, like it recognized his heartbeat. He crouched low, pulled something from his pocket, a harmonica scratched on one side, the kind that comes from a gift, not a shop. He held it in his hand, not playing it, just remembering. She taught me, he whispered, to know, to everyone, to play 3 notes over and over, so that I could build a whole sky from them. Tears didn't fall, but they gathered, waiting, held gently behind his eyes. Meanwhile, the woman stood before the pink lantern, fingers brushing the air near its glow. She used to hum. She murmured low, almost like a lullaby. I never knew where the tune came from, only that she'd hum it when she missed someone. She never told me who. Elira stood between them, listening, not interfering. The guardian already understood. The boy sat down, the harmonica still in his lap. The woman did too, not close but within sight then. The wind shifted, a breeze curled through the branches, soft, circular, like it was tracing something unseen, and suddenly a 3rd lantern flickered to life between them. Neither had touched it, neither had seen it before. It glowed gently, a soft hue between amber and pink, a blend of memory. Elira stepped forward. Kneeling beside it, she reached inside her satchel, but found nothing. No lantern to offer, no flame to pass. This one had formed on its own, created from the echo of their thoughts, the shared rhythm of 2 people remembering the same song from different sides of time. The woman looked up, eyes wide. Could it be the same person? Elira didn't answer. She didn't need to. The boy looked across, for the first time, truly seeing the woman. She used to hum, he said, very softly. The woman nodded, and she used to play, but never well. Not really, just enough to make someone laugh. Their eyes met, and something passed between them. Recognition without explanation. A warmth that doesn't need names. Elira touched the new lantern, and hung it where the light caught just enough of the morning sun, letting it cast 3 shadows across the path. One from amber, one from pink, and one from the place in between. The boy stood first, still clutching the harmonica. He gave a quiet nod to the woman and to the garden, then walked back the way he came, shoulders a little lighter. The woman stayed just a moment longer, gazing at the shared lantern before turning to, her path winding gently. Back into the world, Elira watched them disappear, and the 3 lanterns glowed gently in their place. Memory doesn't always need a name. Sometimes it just needs to be felt by more than one heart. The garden slept in its own way, not closing his eyes, but by breathing softer, Elira walked to the edge, where the garden blurred into forest. No lanterns here, no paths, just trees, still quiet. This place was hers alone. She knelt beneath a tall cedar, pushed back a curl of root, and uncovered a small box, wooden, wrapped in faded cloth. She hadn't opened it in years. The garden seemed to pause. Waiting, Elira's hands hovered. Then she lifted the lid inside a lantern, unlit, smaller than the others, its glass edged with stars, feathers, and a single name. Lyra, her breath caught. A smile touched her lips, soft and sad. She was the first, she whispered, to find this place with me, before the garden was even a garden. Her voice was barely air. We were children running through the woods, chasing quiet, escaping noise we didn't know how to name. A breeze stirred the branches above, as if listening. She found the stone arch, said it looked like a doorway to another world. We stepped through, and the air changed. It felt kind. Elira cradled the lantern. She hummed to the trees, said if we told them our stories, they'd remember them from us. She looked toward the centre of the garden, eyes distant. One day, she walked farther, said she wanted to find where the trees ended and the stars began. A long silence passed. She never came back, not in the way I expected, but sometimes a lantern would flicker, with colours I'd never seen, with a warmth only she carried. She brushed her thumb over the etched name. Lyra. Maybe she's part of the garden now. Maybe the wind is her voice, and the light is her laughter. The lantern pulsed once soft and steady. Elira rose, carrying it carefully through the garden, past the willow, past the stone basin, toward the hut where no lantern had ever hung, until now she reached the silver hook, hung Lyra's lantern, and stepped back. It glowed to life, a soft blue laced with gold, and the shimmer of starlight. Elira stood still. No tears, only memory, held close, because some stories aren't lost. They're planted, and when they bloom, they become gardens. The morning was pale and overcast, clouds stretching across the sky like silk. The garden was quiet but not still. A breeze moved through the lanterns, soft as fingertips, brushing the edges of silence. Elira stood beside the willow, trimming a branch that had grown unruly. She didn't look up at the sound of approaching steps. Not at first. They were heavy, firm, different, not like the soft, uncertain footfalls of the lost, or the curious meander of dreamers. These steps were measured, practical. She turned slowly. A man stood at the edge of the garden, wearing black boots, a thick jacket, and an expression that didn't believe in much. His eyes scanned the lanterns, his brow slightly furrowed, suspicious but intrigued despite himself. Elira said nothing, just nodded, and turned back to the willow. He didn't speak for a while, just walked carefully down one of the stone paths, looking, touching nothing. Then finally, he stopped beside her. This place isn't real, he said, flat, like he was testing her. Elira smiled, not in mockery, but in kindness. What makes something real? He shrugged, looked at the lanterns again. I don't know. Heat, weight, electricity, something measurable. She nodded, still smiling. And what about memory? He frowned. That's chemical, biological, just the brain firing in patterns. Elira plucked a stray leaf from the lantern nearest them, held it gently. This garden doesn't ask anyone to believe, it only asks them to listen. He said nothing, but didn't walk away. Elira gestured to a path leading toward a circle of unlit lanterns, empty glass, waiting. This space is for those who don't remember or don't want to. The man followed slowly. His eyes flicked over the lanterns, and then he paused. One lantern, tucked farther back, flickered faintly, stepped closer, frowned. "I didn't touch it," he said. "You don't need to," Elira replied. He crouched, looking into the faint glow. It was barely there, like it wasn't sure it had the right to exist. Elira watched his jaw tighten. "I don't remember anything," he muttered. Not quite to her, more to himself. Not really. Not anything worth lighting a lantern over. She stepped beside him. "Soft, that's really true." He looked up, eyes cold. But beneath that, something raw, worn. "I was 5, maybe 6. I had a wooden sword, painted gold. Ran through the backyard yelling, 'I was a knight, my dad.'" He laughed. He swallowed hard. "I haven't thought about that in years." The lantern flared slightly, just enough to cast a shadow. He stared at it, shaking his head. "I don't even know why that came to me. It doesn't mean anything. It's just childish." Elira knelt beside him. Memory doesn't measure meaning by size. It measures by weight, and sometimes the lightest things carry us the farthest. The man exhaled. Long and slow, the lantern paused again. Now steady, soft gold. He didn't touch it. Didn't need to. He stood, looked around the garden, his expression unreadable, but his shoulders lower, his jaw less tight. As he turned to leave, he paused beside Elira. "This place," he started, then stopped. "It's strange, but it's quiet in a good way." She smiled again, just a small curve of her lips. "You don't need to believe in it, it believes in you." He looked at her once more, then nodded and stepped back through the stone arch. The garden held the silence he left behind. The lantern still glowed just enough to be seen from the path. Elira walked back to the willow. The breeze stirred again, and a soft hum threaded through the air. Somewhere, even the most guarded hearts find a door that opens, even if just a little, and the garden always listens. The mist came early. It curled along the ground like shy fingers, reaching through the low grass and brushing against the roots of trees. The lanterns dimmed slightly, not from lack of flame, but in reverence. The garden knew what was coming. Elira was near the basin, clearing fallen petals from the water's surface. She paused, head tilting, not to listen, but to feel. A change in the rhythm. A thread of silence so new it rang louder than sound. She turned, and there, just beyond the arch, stood a child. Barefoot, clothes thin, no memory in her eyes, no fear either. Only wide, quiet curiosity. Elira walked to her slowly. "You found your way here," she whispered. The child didn't speak. She looked past Elira, past the willow and the lanterns, to the open spaces in the centre of the garden. Her gaze was not searching, it was waiting. Elira offered her hand. The child took it. They walked without speaking. The garden didn't demand conversation. It breathed with them. Every leaf seemed to hush the air, every petal soft beneath their steps. They stopped by the newer lanterns, one still clear, still unlit. The child looked at them without recognition. Elira didn't ask questions. Not every arrival comes with a story ready to be told. But as they moved deeper into the garden, something strange began to happen. One of the oldest lanterns flickered, then another, then one tucked behind a hedge lit with a shimmer of silver. Elira turned, surprised. These were memories sealed years ago. Quiet, sleeping, not forgotten, but settled. Now they stirred. The child blinked slowly, watching the lights. No fear, no wonder, just calm awareness. She walked toward one of them, an old lantern shaped like a seashell, its glow faint and bluish. She placed her small hand near it, not touching, just present. The flame pulsed. Elira stepped closer. That lantern, it holds the memory of a sailor who dreamed of birds that flew underwater. He said the sky followed him beneath the waves. The child looked up at her. understand it. The child moved again. Another lantern bloomed, a warm orange light like autumn leaves. This one smells like honey, she whispered, and rain. Elira smiled. That's from an old woman who kept bees. She danced in the rain every spring. The child touched her chest gently. That feels like me too. They spent hours like this, wandering, not to find her memory, but to notice which memories noticed her. The lanterns lit themselves in response, not because she remembered, but because she resonated. She was a bell, and the garden was full of strings. As the sky deepened and dusk draped the trees in soft shadow, the child sat by the fountain, bare feet dipped in the cool water. Elira sat beside her, handing her a small stone edged with a feather. This is for when you're ready to place your own lantern, she whispered. It doesn't have to be today. It doesn't even have to be soon. The child held the stone tightly. Do you think the garden knows who I am? Elira looked out across the glowing lanterns. I think it remembers you, even if you don't remember yourself. The child nodded, silent. Then without words, she leaned into Elira's side. The garden hummed, soft, steady, certain. One final lantern lit near the entrance. A quiet light, blue with a touch of gold. Not a memory, but a beginning. The wind carried something different. Not a sound or scent, but a feeling, a return. Elira felt it before she saw it. She stood near the pond, her fingers brushing through tall reeds, when the presence settled over the garden, like a quiet memory unfolding. He walked slowly, not as someone exploring, but as someone remembering. Years had passed since he last stood here. He looked older now, not in years, but in the way someone grows when they carry something long and silently. Elira watched him pause under the willow, the same place he once wept without letting the tears fall. You've come back, she whispered. He nodded, his eyes scanning the garden, as if hoping it would tell him something. I wasn't sure it would still be here. It always is, Elira said gently. It waits. It remembers. They walked the path of older lanterns side by side, saying little. He glanced toward one, half hidden beneath the flowering vines. His voice broke softly. That's the one I left, when she was gone. I couldn't carry the ache. It's still here, Elira murmured. You were brave to leave it. I thought forgetting it would help, but it stayed in me, just quiet and cold. He crouched in front of the lantern. Black metal, small, with a soft, flickering light inside. It didn't burn. It pulsed, as if breathing. I remember now, he said. I couldn't hold the anger, the silence. So, I gave it away. There's courage in knowing when something is too heavy, Elira said softly. His hand hovered over the lantern, not touching, just feeling. The flame brightened beneath his presence. Can I take it back? He asked. You can, she said, or you can let it stay. It belongs to you, either way. But it doesn't need to hurt anymore. He gently lifted it. It felt lighter than he remembered. Warm, not painful. He stood still, holding it for a long moment. Then, slowly, he returned it to its place beneath the vine. Not from fear, but peace. Thank you, he said, eyes soft. Elira smiled. That's what the garden is for. As he left, the flame didn't fade. It glowed, quiet, calm, remembered. The garden breathed with it, holding the story like a promise kept. There was a sound in the garden that day, but no one else seemed to hear it. A gentle hum, as if the air itself was singing, low and distant, like music remembered from a dream. Elira noticed it first when trimming the soft blue ivy near the garden's edge. It drifted through the branches, curled around the lanterns, and faded unread. He walked with the slow carefulness of someone trying not to disturb the memory. The garden welcomed him without words, as it always did, letting the hush of leaves and the rustle of petals fill the space around him. He didn't speak at first, he simply listened, his head tilted slightly, brow furrowed, as though tuning in to something beneath the usual layers of silence. Then he asked, almost to himself, "Do they sing? The lanterns?" Elira paused, then nodded. "Not everyone hears them, but sometimes, yes. The old ones especially. The ones holding memories woven with sand." He stepped lightly between the stone paths, eyes scanning the lanterns. Not for light, but for music. Some emitted faint vibrations, like whispered notes that never reached the surface. He moved to a one shaped like a bellflower. Its flame was soft, its edges flickering in a rhythmic pulse. He leaned closer and closed his eyes. Elira stood nearby, watching with gentle curiosity. "Some memories arrive as lullabies," she said. "Others as songs never finished. This garden remembers all of them." He crouched beside the lantern. "It's familiar. Not the place. The sound. I think I knew this melody once." He pressed a hand to his chest, as if trying to coax something out from within. "It's like it's buried in me." Elira moved closer. "What you're hearing may not be from this lantern alone. The melody might be yours." He sat cross-legged on the grass, still and focused. Around him, the lanterns began to stir, not with flame but with harmony. Faint chords rose and mingled in the air, soft, sweet, and a little sad. The wind shifted gently, carrying the tune in loops and spirals. He didn't seem startled. Instead, he began to hum, quiet and hesitant at first, then stronger, more certain. The notes matched perfectly. Elira knelt nearby, her hands folded in her lap. She said nothing. The garden was listening. As he sang, other lanterns flickered. One shaped like a violin, another etched with waves. Each joined the quiet chorus. The melody was no longer just his. It belonged to the space, to all the souls who had left behind, memories stitched with music. Some joyful, some mournful, all real. He opened his eyes slowly. "It's a lullaby, my mother's. I haven't heard it since I was a child. She used to sing it when the world felt too loud. I think I forgot it to protect myself." Elira nodded softly. "And now, the garden remembers it for you." He reached out and gently touched the bellflower lantern. "May I add the rest?" "Yes," she whispered. He pulled a small piece of folded paper from his coat. A single stanza, written in faded ink. He had carried it for years, unable to read it, unable to forget it. He whispered the words, slowly, letting them join the melody in the air. The lantern glowed brighter, and the garden's hum shifted, softening as if sighing in gratitude. When he finished, he placed the paper into a hollow beneath the lantern, where memory and music could rest together. Then he sat in stillness again, the quiet now filled with something more than silence, peace. As the light faded gently into dusk, Elira spoke once more. "The garden hums when memory returns home." He stood, nodded and whispered, "Then I think I've come home too." small silver one by the moss-covered bench, the sea blue one resting on the edge of the koi pond. Each responded to her touch, glowing gently like a sigh, but the feeling lingered, that something else had shifted. Near the back of the garden, where the stone path thinned and ivy grew thick along the walls, Elira paused. She hadn't walked this part in weeks, not because it was forgotten, but because it rarely called. Tonight it whispered. She followed. The trees grew closer here. Lanterns were fewer, spaced far apart, their flames muted but watchful. She brushed past a low-hanging branch and found herself in a pocket of stillness, tucked between two yew trees, surrounded by fallen petals. And there, half buried beneath roots and ivy, sat a lantern she did not recognise. Her breath caught. It was old, far older than the others. Circular, made of dark iron, laced with tiny carvings too worn to read. No flame inside, just a hollow space. And yet, something about it pulsed faintly, like a heartbeat in the ground. She knelt beside it, brushing away the soil and vines. The carvings shimmered slightly in the moonlight, revealing faint symbols. Not words, but shapes. A tree, a moon, a spiral. They felt familiar, like a lullaby never learned but always known. "How did I miss you?" she whispered. The lantern didn't answer, but the garden shifted. A wind moved through the branches above, and suddenly the other lanterns nearby dimmed, as if bowing. Elira touched the lantern's top, and a low hum filled the space. Not sound, a feeling, a memory that didn't belong to her, but still wrapped around her heart like a forgotten song. The hum deepened, resonating in her chest. Her fingers tightened around the cool iron frame. A vision bloomed behind her eyes. She saw the garden as it once was, newly born, freshly planted, quiet and uncertain. She saw the first visitor, not someone seeking peace, but someone placing it. A woman in robes, her face hidden by time. She walked to the land and left behind this lantern, pressing it into the earth as an offering. Not a memory, a seed. Elira gasped softly as the hum faded. She opened her eyes. The lantern before her now held a small flickering light, gold but laced with blue at the edges. It glowed like starlight beneath water, soft, deep, eternal. It was not a lantern of one memory, but of all the others. The first, the root of the garden. Elira stood, breath caught in her chest, heart slowed by wonder. This lantern hadn't been lost. It had been waiting, resting until the garden was ready to remember its beginning, until Elira was ready to see it. She looked around. No visitor tonight. No voice needing soothing. Yet this evening had spoken louder than any words. The garden had reminded her of its origin, not built from sadness, but planted in hope. A sanctuary born from one soul's desire to hold the unholdable. She whispered, "Thank you for letting me see." The lantern pulsed once, then held steady, and so she left it where it was, untouched but unveiled. A quiet reminder that some truth bloomed not from asking, but from waiting. Some light does not shine until the silence has deepened enough to hold it. As Elira walked away, the other lanterns brightened once more, as if awakened by the garden's first breath echoing through the time. The garden was still, wrapped in soft light and gentle shadows. Elira moved slowly, sensing something delicate in the air. A small breeze stirred the leaves, and with it came a folded piece of parchment, drifting softly to her feet. She picked it up, surprised, for no visitor had arrived. The parchment was sealed with wax, shaped like a lantern. Her fingers trembled as she broke the seal and unfolded the letter inside. The handwriting was familiar, delicate and careful. "My Elira, if you're reading this, then the garden garden has awakened as I hoped it would. I do not know when this letter will find you. Maybe when you're older, maybe when you're ready. But the garden has kept it safe all this time. I built this garden not only for others, but for you. To hold what words could not carry. The strength, the stillness, the quiet love you needed. Each lantern holds a memory, but some hold more. Love that glows softly and patiently. I hope you have felt it. One day you will find a lantern that hums just for you. When that day comes, remember, you are now the keeper, not only of light, but of legacy. Let the garden grow in your hands and heart. With all the love I could not say, Mama Elira's breath caught. Tears blurred her vision, but they were gentle, like a quiet rain. She pressed the letter to her chest, feeling a warmth deeper than any flame. Her gaze lifted to the old lantern hidden beneath the yews, the one pulsing with soft gold and blue light. It seemed to respond, glowing brighter, as if it had been waiting for these words. Elira folded the letter carefully and placed it beside the lantern, as if the garden itself had asked her to keep it safe. In the silence that followed, the garden seemed to breathe with her, a deep, peaceful breath, full of memory and hope. She understood now. The garden was not just a place, it was a promise, a story that had begun long before her and would live beyond her, held gently in light and shadow, in whispers and flame. Since the letter arrived, the garden seemed different, not louder or brighter. No, it remained soft and still, but the air itself carried a new kind of warmth, a quiet pulse beneath the gentle rustle of leaves, like the secret beating of a hidden heart. Elira felt it with every step she took, through the paths she knew so well, as if the garden was waking up in a new way. That morning, she stood beside the koi pond, her fingers trailing through the water's cool surface. The lanterns around her shimmered with their usual glow, but one caught her eye, a small lantern she hadn't noticed before. It was delicate, made of thin glass edged with tiny stars, hanging quietly from a low branch of the weeping willow. Curious, Elira reached up and touched it. The glass was cool, but when her fingers brushed it, a soft light sparked inside. Then, faint images flickered within the lantern's depths, scenes from her own memory, moments she hadn't thought the garden could hold. There was the day she first learned to paint, standing outside with her mother beside her, brushes clutched tightly in her small hands, the scent of fresh pine needles, and the gentle hum of bees around them. Her mother's quiet encouragement, the way her smile glowed in the afternoon sun. The lantern shimmered again, showing her laughter with friends under the old oak tree, the feel of warm grass beneath her feet, the taste of sweet berries picked from the garden's edge. Then a quiet moment, just her and the sky, watching clouds drift by, feeling the soft ache of dreams she wasn't sure she could reach. Elira's breath caught. The garden had begun holding not only the memories of visitors, but her own, her joys, her hopes, the tender, hidden parts of her heart, each moment glowing gently inside these tiny lanterns, waiting to be seen, to be remembered. She looked up and saw more lanterns hanging here and there, shimmering faintly. Each one pulsed with soft light, alive with a piece of her story she hadn't yet understood was part of the garden. The space felt alive, like a tapestry slowly weaving itself around her, made of light and memory. Elira smiled softly, reaching to touch another lantern, a deeper blue this time. It hummed faintly, a soothing sound, and she felt a calmness spread through her, as if the garden was wrapping her in a quiet embrace. She understood now that being the keeper wasn't only about tending the lanterns or caring for memories. It was about holding herself gently, letting her own story shine as part of the garden's light. And so, she walked the paths with new purpose, each step a quiet promise to herself, to cherish the memories, the love, the soft strength growing quietly beneath the surface. The garden was alive with her story, and she was home. When darkness falls, the garden transforms. It sheds its daytime calm and takes on a new kind of magic. Subtle, mysterious, alive. Elia had always known this, but now it felt deeper. Like the garden was whispering its secrets just for her. As dusk melted into night, she walked along the stone path, her footsteps softened by moss and fallen petals. The lanterns flickered to life one by one, their flames dancing like tiny stars caught in glass. But tonight, something different stirred in the air. The light from the lanterns didn't just glow, they pulsed gently, in rhythm with her breath. She reached out and touched one, a delicate lantern shaped like a crescent moon. Its glow warmed her palm, and suddenly the garden shifted. Paths appeared where none had been before, hidden trails of shimmering light weaving through the trees and flowers. They weren't just paths, but invitations, secrets the garden had been waiting to share. Elira stepped onto the glowing trail, heart steady but full of wonder. Each step lit more lanterns along the way, their gentle light revealing shapes she'd never noticed before. Soft moss-covered stones carved with ancient symbols, petals that sparkled like dew but never wilted, and trees whose branches arched like arms welcoming her deeper inside. The trail led her to a small clearing bathed in silver light. In the centre stood a tall lantern unlike any other, made of crystal and light, humming softly with a melody she felt more than heard. It was as if the garden itself was breathing through this lantern, sharing a song born from every memory, every whispered hope it held. Elira knelt beside it, feeling the warmth spread through her fingers. The song wrapped around her like a blanket, comforting and alive. In that moment, she understood something new. The garden wasn't just a place of memories. It was a living story, growing with every heartbeat, every secret kept safe within its light. The crystal lantern shimmered brighter, casting patterns of stars across the clearing. Elira closed her eyes, letting the melody fill her. She saw flickers of laughter, moments of peace, dreams whispered in the quiet of night, all woven together in the gentle glow. When she opened her eyes, the garden was still. The hidden paths faded, but the light in her heart remained. She stood slowly, her breath soft in the cool night air. "Thank you," she whispered, knowing the garden would carry her words like a promise. As she walked back along the familiar stone path, the lanterns flickered gently, their light a steady heartbeat in the dark. The garden had revealed its secret magic, not just the past, but the living present, the endless thread connecting memory and hope, shadow and light. And Elira knew she was exactly where she was meant to be. Dawn tiptoed into the garden, brushing the lanterns with pale light. The world was quiet, wrapped in a gentle hush before the day began. Elira stood at the edge of the pond, watching the first soft rays spill over the water's glassy surface. The lanterns, still warm from the night, held a faint glow, like the last breath of a dream before waking. The garden felt different in the morning, as if it was breathing new life with the sun's slow rise. stories waiting to be told in the light. She walked slowly through the paths, her steps careful not to disturb the delicate stillness. The lanterns caught the early sun, scattering light like tiny rainbows across the stones. As she moved, new lanterns began to appear, small, shining orbs nestled among the flowers, hanging gently from branches she hadn't noticed before. Each one hummed softly, carrying fresh memories born from the night, dreams, hopes, and quiet moments, each one a glowing thread weaving into the garden's endless story. Elira reached out to touch one, a lantern shaped like a delicate blossom. The light inside pulsed gently, and she felt a warm wave of calm wash over her. She realized the garden wasn't only a keeper of old memories, it was a place where new ones were born, nurtured, and celebrated. The morning light seemed to stretch with her, filling the garden and her heart with a quiet joy. It was a reminder that every day, every moment, was a chance to add another piece to the story. Soft, shining, alive. With a gentle smile, Elira looked up to the sky, where the sun was climbing higher. She knew the garden would continue to grow with her, holding the past and welcoming the future